Penny Pritzker served as Barack Obama's Commerce Secretary. She joins us live now from Aspen, Colorado. Penny, thank you so much for being with us. So what is the #1 thing that Joe Biden needs to do in order to relieve this country of some of its economic woes?
Well, I think there are actually three things that Joe Biden is focused on to bring this country back to an inclusive economic growth. And the first is a plan to end the pandemic and to basically listen to the scientists and listen to the experts to be able to bring therapies and vaccines to all of us. The second is he's developed an inclusive economic competitiveness plan, a plan that invests in our workforce, gives people the kind of benefits that are necessary in order for them to be able to work, invest in manufacturing so that we make vital products here in the United States, invest in R&D so that we're leading in the technologies of the 21st century, like 5G and AI and quantum. And finally, investing in clean energy so that we have an environment that is healthy for all of us, but also that we have the energy supply that we need in order to lead the world. And finally, the thing that Joe Biden plans to do and will do is put America back in a leading position globally. He'll work together with our allies, and he'll work against our adversaries. And so I think that a combination of these things will bring greater certainty and stability to our country and to our citizenry, and certainly will help businesses make more investments.
You talked at the beginning of your answer about ending the pandemic, but how much is Joe Biden's hands tied, just in terms of what he can do economically to revive the economy without there being a vaccine, and when there appears to be a second wave in this country as well?
Well, there's a lot to do. You can make investments, in our workforce, make sure that we have training, make sure we're leveraging our community colleges, make sure that we're helping those who have lost their jobs upskill so that they're qualified for the jobs that are open and available. You can invest in R&D. You can put us back on a clean energy program, which is something that Americans want. So there's a lot to be done, but simultaneously, as president, you have to do a lot of things at the same time, and simultaneously addressing the pandemic and the conditions and setting a tone, which is we all need to wear masks. This is not optional. This is not a choice. This is what we need to do.
Obviously, Joe Biden's priorities, as you just laid out, are going to be domestic. However, if you look at the bigger picture, the world's two biggest economies are at loggerheads, the U.S. and China. What do you think Joe Biden's strategy? I mean, once he sort of takes care of the economy here, given the pandemic, what do you think his strategy is going to be when it comes to handling China?
Well, I think, first of all, his strategy is to make sure the United States is competitive. And that economic competitiveness plan that I just laid out is something that is essential not only for us domestically, but frankly, the Chinese fear it. They fear our competition. So that's #1. #2 is to stand up and hold China accountable to their responsibilities globally, like playing fair, whether it's around intellectual property protection or following the rules of global trade, so that China and the United States are at least on a level playing field with one another. So there's a lot that Joe Biden can do and will do to stand up to China and to put the United States and continue to put the United States in a competitive position, and make sure that all Americans are benefiting from that.
We are living through a tale of two Americas right now. I mean, obviously, almost every day on this program, I talk about the fact that we are either at or nearing or hovering around record highs in terms of the stock market. At the same time, we're witnessing ordinary Americans really suffering, especially given that it's been several weeks now since they've had that unemployment insurance, $600 a week, that they so desperately need. Why is there this divergence between what Wall Street is experiencing on the one hand and what Main Street is experiencing?
Well, I think we need to, look, the issue of inclusive economic growth is something that I've been passionate about since before my time as Secretary of Commerce, and making sure that every American has the opportunity to adjust and thrive as we transition into a much more digitally led economy. And that's something that's central to the plan that Joe Biden has put forward. And what you're seeing is significant growth in our digitally led businesses, and you're seeing significant pain in our travel or tourism or restaurants or Main Street type retail, if you will. And, we're going through a massive transition in that respect. I think, the ability to bring back travel and tourism goes right to the heart of needing to handle the pandemic. Without handling the pandemic, without all of us feeling safe, we're not going to get in, on a plane or go to a hotel or eat out at restaurants at the rate that we were before. And so, there's a lot to be done, and Joe Biden understands that. And for me, this issue of, at fundamental to the competitiveness plan is investing in our people so that the recovery is inclusive of everyone.
And then, just in terms of, obviously, yes, it is a priority to make sure that this recovery is inclusive, but, where we've sort of stalled in terms of having a stimulus bill that gets passed, for example. If we continue to wait and those stimulus checks aren't sent out, what is going to be the consequence in terms of this recovery?
Well, Congress recognizes, I think, they've got to get their act together, that this crisis is not over and their responsibility is not ended. And so I'm hopeful that they can find common ground because Americans are suffering, and we cannot allow, as we transition through this horrible virus, that we let Americans flail. So I think there's enormous pressure on Congress and, frankly, on President Trump to take action. And the executive actions are, as you've seen, the Business Roundtable has come back and said we cannot implement these executive actions. So Congress needs to act.
Penny Pritzker, live for us there. Thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us.